Hi there, and welcome to the Salted Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food and we keep it real simple. Today we're gonna make a really quick and easy corn pudding in the Ninja Foodi pressure cooker and air crisper. So I just got finished making some cream corn in my Ninja Foodi hot cold blender. It came together so easy and it is absolutely delicious. So I'm gonna link to that video right up there, and you don't have to have the Ninja Foodi hot cold blender to do this. You can do it in the Ninja Foodi or on the stove, and you can put it in a regular blender just to kind of blend it up a little bit. And you don't even have to make it at all. You can substitute this for about 1.5 to 2 cups of a 50-50 mixture of creamed corn in a can and canned corn that's been drained, or frozen corn, and that doesn't matter. So you can make this a ton of different ways, but I'm gonna use my homemade version because I just think homemade is better. All right, so corn pudding. And if you don't know what it is, or you don't think you've ever had it, or maybe you have had it and you're gonna say mine is totally different, there are a lot of ways to make it, okay? So my way may not be your way, but that doesn't mean it's the wrong way. I happen to think this is absolutely delicious. It's like a cross between a really moist cornbread and like a corn casserole. So I happen to love it this way. You can make any adjustments or modifications you want to make this recipe your own. All right, so this is the mixing bowl I'm gonna use, which it has a handle. I like that because I can hold on to it, but any mixing bowl will do. And I'm gonna add in 1/3 of a cup of sugar, 5 tablespoons of melted butter, and this butter has been melted, but it also has had a chance to cool down. And I'm gonna add in 2 eggs. And then we're just gonna whisk that up for a few minutes. Not even a few minutes, probably about a minute, just to get the eggs lightly beaten. I'm not even sure, a minute, 30 seconds. That looks good. All right, then we're gonna add in our creamed corn. And again, you can use canned creamed corn and canned regular corn in equal amounts, as long as you have about 1.5 to 2 cups. I think that was about 2 cups there. All right, just mix that in. And now I'm gonna switch now from my whisk to a spatula or a scraper, just because I think it's easier and it won't get all clumped up in the whisk. This is 1 cup of cornmeal. Dump that in. And then in this bowl, I have a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and I have a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. The cayenne pepper is totally optional, but I'm gonna put kind of like a sweet topping on this, and so I wanted that heat, just a little bit of heat, in the corn pudding to balance out the sweetness. If you don't like heat, totally omit it, okay? If you want a little less heat, use a pinch to 1/8 of a teaspoon. But this is a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne. You could also use a chipotle powder if you liked your corn pudding a little on the smokier side. And then we're just gonna simply mix this up. Now, once you add in the baking powder, you do want to get this cooked right away. So this isn't something that you would want to let sit for any length of time, because the baking powder will activate once it hits liquid ingredients, and then it won't do its job when you start to bake it. So you do want to get this, or pressure cooked is what we're gonna do. We're not gonna bake, we're gonna pressure cook. So you do want to get this cooked up right after mixing it. All right, so it looks sort of like a corn bread batter. It's nice and loose and everything, but it's gonna be just a little bit different than cornbread. All right, so let's get our pan. Let me put this over here so you can definitely see what I'm doing. Now, what I'm cooking this in today is a 9-inch pie plate that I found on Amazon from Fat Daddy-O. And I bought this to make pumpkin pie, which you're gonna see coming up real soon. But I also thought it's gonna be great for this corn pudding. But you don't have to use this. You can use an 8x2 pan, a Fat Daddy-O 8x2 pan, or you could use even a smaller pan. But remember, the smaller you go, the more depth there's going to be to cook. So you will have to adjust your cooking times. And since I haven't tried that, I can't give you exact times. But I would say if you use a 6-inch or a 7-inch pan, you would probably want to go about 25 minutes of pressure cook time. If you use anything bigger, at 8 or 9, like I'm using, you can stick with the 20 minutes of pressure cook time. All right, I'm going to get just a little bit of butter. This is about a tablespoon of butter. Put in the pan here. Probably not totally necessary, but something that I usually do. So I'm gonna do this just so it doesn't stick. I don't think it would stick anyway, but you know, can't have too much butter, especially when you're making a nice treat like corn pudding. And corn pudding isn't like your chocolate or vanilla pudding, so it's nothing like that at all. All right, there we go. I've got a little bit of butter here on the edge. I'm just going to wipe that off. All right. All right. Now, real quick, I'm going to go wash my hands, get this butter off, and then we will pour this corn mixture in here, and we'll get it under pressure. So let's get our corn pudding batter into our pan here. And then just spread it out a little bit. Now you can cover it with foil, or you can cover it with what I'm going to cover it with, which is one of these silicone lids from Waffles. But you do want to make sure you cover it with something because you don't want all the moisture from pressure cooking to get in to the corn pudding. All right, so we're going to open up the Ninja Foodi. Take the rack out here. We're going to use the rack in the low position. You're going to put in 1 cup of plain old room temperature tap water. And then we'll put this on the rack. Get it into the Ninja Foodi. Put the pressure lid on. Turn the valve in the back to the seal position because we're going to go under pressure. Turn the Ninja Foodi on, hit the pressure cook. High is what we want, and we're gonna go to 20 minutes. And hit start. All right, so this doesn't take any time at all to come up to pressure, probably about, I would say 5 to 7 minutes. And then we'll go under pressure for 20 minutes, and we'll do a natural release for 5 minutes. And then we're gonna get that really special topping on top, and we're gonna broil it up. It's absolutely delicious, so stick around for that. All right, so we went under pressure for 20 minutes, and then I let it natural release for 5 minutes, and then I just flipped the valve over to the release, so we're gonna let the rest of the steam just come out, and we'll wait for the red button to depress, and then we can open up the lid. Meanwhile, what I have here is some ingredients that we're gonna mix up, and we're gonna pour over our corn pudding to add that little sweet balance to the spice that we put into the corn pudding. All right, so now we can open this up and do that away from you because it is always hot. Always hot. Okay. It rose up, and it's even got like a little indentation where the silicone lid indents a little bit, but that makes no difference, okay? Because we're not even going to see that once we're done. All right, so while this cools, let this cool just for a minute. It makes it a little bit easier to poke the holes, and I'll put the mixture together. So what we're gonna do is combine 1 tablespoon of maple syrup with 1 tablespoon of water and a 1/4 cup of brown sugar. This could be dark brown sugar or light brown sugar, but I'm using light brown sugar. So we're gonna put that together. All right, that's good. And then we'll dump in the water. Now, if you didn't like maple syrup, you don't have to use that. You know, it's just I wanted to give just a little bit of a maple flavor. And just mix it up. You could also just use butter. This would be delicious if you just melted some butter and poured it on as well. All right, so now I'm going to take this. I'm going to turn our Ninja Foodi off now. And I'm using the bottom of a chopstick that's just a circular round, but you could use anything that will make a round hole. I mean, you could even use a fork if you wanted to, or a skewer or something like that. But I'm going to go ahead and use this because it's the right size for the holes I want to make. And I'm just going to go in and make the holes. You can make as many or as few as you want. I love the way this feels. The texture feels amazing just by putting this chopstick through. It's just amazing. All right, that looks good. So now let's pour over our mixture. You can pour it all in the center and then just sort of spread it out. This step is totally optional too because your corn pudding is ready to go. You could just let it cool, but I thought this step added a little something special and I wanted to share that with you because it was so delicious. All right, I'm just spreading it around so that it gets all over and into those little holes there that we made. It smells so good. All right. Now for the final touch, I'm going to create a nice little crunchy exterior. So now we've got some heat, we've got some sweet, and we're also going to have the texture of a real like soft, velvety corn pudding with a nice crisp top. And I think that is perfect. So just sprinkle the brown sugar over the top. You want a thin layer, kind of even, okay? Because we're gonna broil this and we want it to just broil up fairly quickly and create a nice little crunchy topping. So if you have areas that are real thick, that sugar is gonna take a lot longer to melt and caramelize. So we want it to be a nice thin layer and even. All right, that looks perfect. Now for this one, you do not have to preheat the Ninja Foodi. I don't when I'm making this. It's not gonna matter. We're gonna go under broil until it's done. That can take anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. But meanwhile, let me real quick wash my hands because they're full of sugar. So let's get this into the Ninja Foodi. And like I said, I'm not even gonna worry about the little bit of water down there in the bottom. Close the lid. We are gonna turn the Ninja Foodi on. We are gonna go to the broil function. It defaults to 10 minutes. That's perfectly fine because I'm gonna check this in about 4 minutes and then every minute thereafter until it is the perfect topping that I want, which will be melted brown sugar that's gonna get crispy as it cools. Okay, so it's been in the Ninja Foodi under broil for 4 minutes and let's take a look at it. And you can see that there are areas that have started to melt, but the majority has not. The other thing that you can do if you see an area, which I don't see it here today, but I have in the past, is if you see that one side is cooking more than another, just turn it around a little bit, okay? Because like every oven, I've noticed that there can be some hot spots or some cooler spots in the Ninja Foodi, so just rotate that pan around and let it keep going. So now I'm gonna check it every minute until it's done. It may take the whole 10 minutes. So we'll just keep checking it and there you go. Now, the texture that you want to expect from this recipe is similar to a very, very moist cornbread, but not crumbly, and it's gonna have a lot more corn in it and no flour in this one at all. So I hope you really enjoy it because I think it's absolutely fantastic. Let's give it a little peek here. And more is getting melted and caramelized. The smell is intensifying. All right, let's peek again. Oh gosh, it smells so good, but we're still not there. You don't want to rush this either. We want to let all of that melt because what happens if it melts, then when it cools, it becomes crisp. If not, it's just like brown sugar on top. So you want it to melt so that you have a nice crisp topping, but it's not gritty, you know? We might have to go more than 10 minutes. I think on my test recipes though, it was done in 10 minutes, but you know, things are different all the time. So if it takes more than 10, it takes more than 10. It won't take more than 15 though, or we would burn the sugar. All right, now I grabbed my little brush here. This is a silicone basting brush because the last time I opened it up, I noticed that there was a little clump of brown sugar here and there was a bare spot. So I'm gonna just sort of move that around a little bit. Like if you see any holes, you could also put a little bit more brown sugar if you needed to, but I don't think that's necessary here. I'm just gonna sort of spread it around, but I can already feel the topping getting crispy. We just have a little bit longer to go and we will be done. So maybe 10 minutes will do it for us, but let's see. It's so pretty too. It kind of looks like a pie, honestly, like an apple crisp pie or something. So it's really pretty. I'm gonna let it go the whole 2 minutes and then check it, and then we can make a decision whether or not we need to go under the broil for a little bit longer. All right, we just have a few seconds left on that 10-minute broil, and it's gonna go to the cool setting, and then that happens just for like a minute, not even 30 seconds, 10 seconds, something like that. It's very fast. Yeah, that fast. So 10 seconds maybe. And then you can open up the lid. They say don't interrupt that though when it is going under the cool cycle. It does something with the electronics that I've heard. All right, it looks really good. I do see some areas that I would like to have melted just a little bit more. But not too much. It would be perfectly fine to take out right now, but I always push the envelope, so I'm gonna put it on for 2 more minutes and hope I don't burn it because it could burn very easily at this point. So if you're a more cautious person in the kitchen, then you would definitely want to just go ahead and take it out. But I'm gonna risk it. And I'm gonna check it in a minute. I might even check it every 30 seconds. Because sugar, once it gets going, it burns like that. I'm gonna brush it one more time, just to see, is there anything loose? A little bit. I can see it getting a little bit darker in the middle, but it's not burning, so I'm gonna keep going. But I'm not gonna put any more time on it. So after the 12 minutes, I'm definitely not gonna keep going because I just know it'll be my luck that like that next minute it'll totally burn and that will ruin the flavor and we don't want that. All right, so we're done. It went to the cool. That'll be off in just a second or so. And then we can lift the lid. And if you wanted it to melt a little bit more, you could leave it inside the Ninja Foodi and just close the lid and the residual heat would melt it more. But, you know, from what I'm seeing, it looks good. I can still see where there's some brown sugar, but I'm not able to really move it around too much. So most of it has melted in and formed that crust that we want. And so it looks good. Now I'm gonna lift it out. See how pretty it is? It's really gorgeous. Now, in my perfect world, which doesn't exist, I would have preferred all of it to look like this little edge here. And I've gotten more of it looking like that on previous tests. So I could probably have put like a tiny bit of spritz of water on here to help it along. But I wanted to make it as simple as possible for you guys. And this is gonna give a good result. So I'm not going to worry about it. I could also, if I had a kitchen torch, I could also go around and just sort of heat it up in spots and get it to look like that. But it's going to be perfectly fine. Now we have to let it cool. That always stinks, doesn't it? Because it smells so good and I really want to try it right now. But we need to let it cool, not too long. This can be served warm. It can be served cold. It can be served room temperature. But I'm gonna let it cool about 5 minutes and then we will dish it out and taste it. All right, so in just a few minutes, everything is cooled down and now we have this crisp crust. This is gonna pair so nicely with the corn pudding underneath. I'm really excited. All right, the pan's still hot, so I'm gonna kind of hold on to it a little bit. Now you could cut this into squares, you know, or I'm sorry, into wedges, or you can just go in with, the rack. This is one of the issues with the rack. Take your food off the rack before serving. It's one thing I do not like about that rack. Things slip off. All right, and there we go. That is our corn pudding. I am excited. So it's a lot moister than cornbread, not as crumbly, and it has a lot of corn in it, a lot of whole kernels of corn. It's good. Now, honestly, I might add some more butter next time. Or decrease the cornmeal to 3/4 of a cup. I don't know. It's really good. The spice is perfect for me, but it is a little spicy. So if you don't like spice, please omit that cayenne pepper. Now let me get a piece with the topping and the corn pudding itself. This is so good. Oh my goodness. It is so good. I would say it's equivalent to a very moist cornbread. I think, like I said, I think I would increase the butter a little bit or decrease the cornmeal to 3/4 of a cup. This is the third time I've made it. And each time I've made little changes. That's how I am. And I think this time I added eggs. I didn't have eggs in it before. And I increased the the cornmeal because I added eggs. I think next time I would add the eggs, but not put in the full cup of cornmeal because it's just a little grainier than I would like. But anyway, it's absolutely delicious. Like, you can't go wrong following the recipe exactly as written. But don't be surprised when you look at the recipe on my website if it isn't just a little bit different, because I'm gonna make it again and tweak it just a little bit, because we can always improve our recipes, right? Happy cooking.